In the tapestry of American history, a common thread weaves a tale that slavery ended with the Civil War in 1865. Yet, this narrative is far from the whole truth. A pivotal figure in this narrative, President Abraham Lincoln, was tragically assassinated by Southern zealot John Wilkes Booth. Left in his stead was Southern Democrat Andrew Johnson, who assumed the mantle of the presidency. Johnson, however, was no Lincoln. He systematically dismantled the reparations legislation that Lincoln had carefully crafted for the newly freed slaves. This opened the door for the Southern states to implement a series of laws known as the Black Codes. These codes were designed to control and subjugate black citizens, effectively criminalizing their lives and behaviours. Vagrancy, breaking a work contract, or even something as simple as drinking alcohol could result in a harsh sentence. The enforcers of these laws were invariably white, often plantation owners or their employees. There were no police, as we understand the term today. Instead, these white judges, sheriffs, and deputies held sway over the lives of black people in the South. With the introduction of the Black Codes, a new form of slavery was born, not in chains, but in the form of oppressive laws and racial prejudice. This is a stark reminder that the end of slavery was not as clear-cut as many believe. It was not a simple line drawn in the sand with the end of the Civil War, but rather a complex and insidious process that extended far beyond 1865. Exploring the post-Civil War era in America, we encounter the Black Codes, laws designed to criminalize black people in the South. The South, recovering from defeat and the end of slavery, found a new way to control the newly freed black population through laws that included vagrancy, breaking work contracts, and more. With the system being controlled by white plantation owners or their employees, these laws benefited those in power most. When a black person was charged, the fines imposed were often beyond their means, leading plantation owners or mining corporations to pay them, creating a system of debt slavery. This system, not fully eradicated until the 1940s, allowed the shadow of slavery to persist well beyond the Civil War under the guise of law and order. Enter peonage, an insidious form of slavery that was not abolished until the mid-20th century. It was a system in which an employer compelled a worker to pay off a debt with work. Imagine being trapped in a never-ending cycle of work without any chance of breaking free. That was the reality for many black men in the South during this period. Peonage was officially outlawed by Congress in the year 1867, just 2 years after the end of the Civil War. This legislation was supposed to mark the end of slavery in all its forms. However, the reality was far from this ideal. The system of peonage continued to thrive, especially in the southern states, where it provided a convenient loophole to continue the exploitation of black labor. After the Reconstruction era, many southern black men found themselves ensnared in the cruel web of peonage. A variety of methods were used to trap these individuals in a life of servitude. Some were ensnared through unjust legal systems that levied hefty fines for minor offenses, while others were trapped through unscrupulous labor contracts. These tactics were not random acts of exploitation, but a systematic approach to maintaining a workforce that could be controlled and manipulated. It was a new form of slavery that was hidden behind the facade of legality and debt repayment. This form of slavery was pervasive and deeply entrenched in the fabric of Southern society. It was not until the 1940s that the system of peonage was finally eradicated. This marks the end of a dark chapter in American history, with the last slave in America being officially freed in 1942. Peonage was a grim reminder of the lasting impact of slavery and the lengths to which some would go to exploit others. It served as a testament to the enduring struggle for freedom and equality, a struggle that continues to this day. As we delve deeper into the annals of American history, we stumble upon a shocking revelation. The year is 1942, and we find ourselves in the era of Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency. It's here that we encounter the official legal definition of a chattel slave freed in America. Yes, you heard it right. This was the year when the last slave was officially freed in the United States, a staggering 77 years after the Civil War supposedly ended slavery. Now you might ask, why was this act brought about in 1942? Roosevelt had a clear motive. The world was in the throes of the Second World War, and the Empire of Japan was committing unspeakable acts in China. By freeing the last chattel slave, Roosevelt aimed to differentiate the United States from these abhorrent actions, to present a picture of a nation that stood for freedom and basic human rights. Reflecting upon this surprising piece of history, it becomes painfully clear that the end of the Civil War did not mark the end of slavery in America. The chains of bondage took on new forms, the legacy of servitude lingered, and the fight for freedom continued. The last slave freed in 1942 serves as a stark reminder of this reality. It tells us that the struggle for racial equality and justice in America is not a tale of the distant past, but a narrative that continued well into the 20th century and echoes even today.